GM, Dana here, DevRel engineer at Celo Foundation, and you might know me as Gigahertz also on Twitter. And today is a very, very special day, very excited. First of all, we have Harish here from Gaia, and and then also, I don't know if you've seen it already, but Celo has launched a new initiative called CXAI, and Gaia is also one of our launch partners. So, what a perfect timing for a workshop. And just a very, very quick intro. CXAI is a new user-centric AI initiative from the Celo Foundation to accelerate prosperity for all with 15 plus partners. So definitely make sure to go to the Celo Twitter and check out all the launch partners, read through the Medium article and blog post. And yeah, so now also it's the month of the AI hackathons. There is the ETH Global Agentic Hackathon and the Safe Agentathon. And in both, you can use Gaia and you get some bounties. And that's very cool. Especially like for the Safe Agentathon, for the Celo bounty, definitely, I think it's very useful to use the Gaia agent framework. Just for everybody who might not know Celo, Celo is an emerging Ethereum layer 2 and a mobile-first blockchain network built for the real world and designed for fast and low-cost payments worldwide. For everybody, we have a lot of stable coins, more than 14 local stable coins, and so very, very focused on real-world use cases. If you are building for actual users, Celo is the chain for you. And I think with that, I will already hand over to Harish. Very excited for today. Very excited to learn more about Gaia agents. I'm also taking part in the Ethereum ETH Global Hackathon. And we're building with Gaia, so that will be really helpful for me as well. So yeah, the floor is yours, and you can also share your screen.
All right, GM folks, thank you, Lena, for the intro. I'm going to do a classic way of presentation, starting with a PPT, because why not? Right? Let me know when you're able to see my screen. Yes, perfect. Okay, let's start. Hello, everybody. I'm Harish. I'm a developer advocate at Gaia, and at Gaia, I primarily focus on creating content, examples, and also onboarding a lot of developers to building AI agents using Gaia. Now, what is Gaia? Before getting into that, let's see. If you're able to see the question, reply back in the chat. How many of you have used ChatGPT or Claude or DeepSeek? You have, yes. Most of us have. I'm assuming most of us have. Let's see. How many of you know what AI agents are? If you don't know, it's okay. It's absolutely okay if you don't know. All right. Next question. How many of you have used an open source LLM before? Or do you know what an LLM is? If you don't know, don't worry. I will tell you what it is in the lamest and the simplest example possible so that you will never forget it. I have one last question before I get into what Gaia is and start building with Gaia. The last question that I have is, how many of you have tried creating an AI agent? Doesn't matter if it is Gaia or not, or if you've used a framework, or if you've used another platform to do it. All right, let's go. So today we're going to cover a quick intro to Gaia, what Gaia is, some concepts that you have to know before you start building AI agents, irrespective of where you're building them. And then also we'll see a quick demo and I'll do a walkthrough of the code base. You can try the code base out after the session itself. It's on GitHub. And mint your own tokens on Celo's testnet, right? Then let's get started. What is Gaia? Gaia is a decentralized open source platform that lets anybody like you and me to be able to launch AI agents with just few minutes or few couple of hours, because you'll have to customize your own knowledge base and give a personality to the agent. But by default, you have just to run 3 commands to launch an AI agent using Gaia. I'll show you this in the demo, but that's what Gaia does. It's an open source tool. You can also contribute if you're a builder that is that has familiarity with Rust. So most of our infrastructure is built on Rust. This is what you get when you launch an AI agent with Gaia. We call them nodes. So when you launch a node, what you will get with the node is a MetaMask wallet address. So your AI agents by default can perform transactions on chain. Along with that, what you get is a stack called API server, which contains tool usage. By tool usage, I mean you can call external APIs. Let's say if you want to get the current uh, crypto price from CoinGecko. You can do that using tool usage, but you will need specific models. I'll tell you how to pick them, how to pick the right model for your right use case through the presentation. Along with that, what you also get is the LLM itself. So you can pick any model that you want based on your use case and also your machine power, because all of this is running on your local machine. It's not running anywhere on the internet. It's not storing any data. Everything that happens in a Gaia node stays on the machine where you're running it. So if I'm running it now during the demo, it is running on my machine, right? Along with that, what you also get is the prompt manager, where you can customize or tell the LLM how to behave, right? You can get all these resources on our docs, which is on the screen right now. But along with that, by default, when you launch a node with Gaia, what you also get is a vector database called Quadrant. Now, what is a vector database? How does an LLM interact with the vector database is coming up in the next slide. But remember that all of these is by default coming when you launch a node, right? And some of the things that you as a builder can build are on the right side, right? Where you can build custom workflows for different AI agents. You can build agent to agent interactions. You can build token launchers like the one I'm going to show, where autonomously an AI can generate a token and mint it on chain, right? What I'm going to show is like a basic, simple example, but you're not limited by it, right? You can perform everything that ContractKit has on Celo's documentation. All the functions that it can do using JavaScript, you can do it using your AI agent itself, right? So let's move on. Like I said, these are some things that you can build. Every node that you launch with Gaia comes with an OpenAI compatible API, which means if you have built an app before or a platform before or an agent before using the OpenAI's API, you can replace that with your own node. So you can train your node with your own specialized knowledge base and give it a personality, and now replace your AI agent to use your node, your knowledge base, everything local that you want your agent to behave like. You can also build dApps. You can also do personalized AI agents. Like I said, you can also use your own Gaia node as your coding support in either Visual Studio or Cursor as well, right? So you can train it on your own code bases that you write, and it will start writing code just like you. So all of these are some examples of what you can build with Gaia. And yes, now let's see how to launch an agent, and also some components that you need to know before you launch an agent. And the first one is embeddings. Now, if you don't know what embeddings is, this is probably the most simplified way of defining embeddings. Embeddings are essentially words or phrases converted to numbers. That's all. Which means happy or joy, which are similar words, have similar numbers. That's all an embedding is, right? Why should embeddings be there in the first place? Essentially, embeddings help computers generate and create stories easily, right? Because language is harder, embeddings is just numbers, so it's easier. The second concept that you have to learn is a vector database, right? Now, happy and joy, like I said, are two similar words. Imagine a vector database is like a shelf with bunch of boxes, and each box contains similar words. So happy and joy are in one box, right? Similarly, other words that are closer to each other are in different boxes. Now, why vector database? Because this way of storing embeddings will make the LLM find words and create stories better, because LLMs, large language models, are essentially storytellers, right? They're just predicting the next word and creating the story for the query that the user is asking. That's all they're doing. They can't do anything else, right? So that's how they leverage a vector DB to find similar words from the vector database and then view a story and respond back to the user. Now, to be able to create a good LLM that responds to a specialized knowledge base, in this case, let's take an example of Celo docs, right? If I were to create an AI agent that is trained on Celo's documentation, what I would first do is get the markdown files or the text files of the entire website, right? docs.celo.org. I would convert that into text, right, which is called the knowledge base. And then there is a step that everybody has to follow, that is creating a custom knowledge base, is chunking, right? If I talk to you continuously for 2 seconds without taking a pause, you will never understand what I wanted to convey, right? Similarly, LLMs also have a limited context size, right? These are some concepts that you have to remember because these will help you create a better agent, right? So LLMs have a limited context size, which is why you have to chunk the information that you're giving to the LLM into segments, right? By which I mean, let's say there is a definition of, okay, what is Celo? Then if you have like a full page definition, it has to be chunked into different sizes of ideally 384 characters or 768 characters in our case, because by default, every Gaia node comes with a nomic embedding model, right? LLMs are storytellers. Embedding models are just converting text to embeddings, right? So by default, we use nomic embed. So you have to convert your text into chunks, right? Now, once you've chunked the knowledge base or the file itself, then you have to pass it on to the embedding model, and then the embedding model will give you vectors, which are stored by default in a quadrant vector database, right? That's all. That's the process that you do if you're creating a node with specialized knowledge. By specialized knowledge, like I said, docs on Celo can be one example. Then you can also, we also have examples. I'll show you examples of some of the agents that you can try out today. We have a Vitalik's digital twin, which is trained on his blog and his tweets, right? So that's also a knowledge base. Then you can also create your own knowledge base based on your code base that you have. You can also create knowledge base of an entire GitHub repository of an organization. These are some examples of creating specialized agents. That is where Gaia will come into picture, right? So now that we have covered what embeddings are, LLMs are, and what a vector database is, let's move on, right? We also have a web tool where you can drop in a text file and convert it to embeddings, and you will get a snapshot URL, which I'll show you how to use, right? Demo is coming, don't worry. Demo is almost there, right? We are covering the fundamentals first before we get to the demo. But yes, we have a web tool and we have a GitHub repo where you can use the RAG tool to convert your knowledge base that we talked about earlier into an embedding, right? And then use it as your knowledge base in the Gaia node, right? That's all. Now you can scan the QR code and get to the docs page where I'm going to cover how you can launch your own AI agent or a Gaia node. You can use them interchangeably using Gaia, right? So let's get to it. Let me get out of this first, and let's go to our docs. You can go to docs.gaianet.ai and you'll land up in this page. Before we do that, I'm going to show you some examples of AI agents. This is our website, gaianet.ai. And if you scroll down or if you go to the menu, under products, you can find AI agent domains. This is where you will find some of our AI agents that you can try out today. These are very simple, basic examples. We also have an app that lets you convert your prompt into an app itself, right? This is very similar to Claude artifacts if you've used Claude before, right? So you can try all these agents out. And let me show you one quick one. Let's go to which one? Let's go to, I hope this one works. But yes, this is the chat UI that you get by default when you launch an AI agent with Gaia. Along with this, on the bottom left, you can also see that there is a button called API tutorial. Like I said, every node has an OpenAI compatible API. So you can simply copy the API and call it or build apps on top of it, right? This is an agent that is trained on the MetaMask docs, right? You can just click start and simply start chatting with the agent, right? Now we will build the same thing and I'll show you how to do it by yourself on your machine. It's a very simple one, right? So if you go to our documentation, the first step is go to for developer section and go to setting up your own node, right? These are the basic recommendations of a machine that you should use when you're launching an AI agent. But if you have a machine that is, let's say, 8 GB of RAM and no GPU, just CPU, I'll show you how to pick the right model. Right. The first step is to install the CLI. So I'm going to copy the command. This is the command, and I'm going to install the CLI. This will install everything that is needed for the node to run from your local machine. Like I said, it comes with an API server, prompt manager, but under the hood, if you're keen and if you're interested, what this is doing is using a library called Wasm Edge, which allows anybody to run applications on edge devices, which is a laptop or a mobile or Raspberry Pi and so on, right? So Gaia is built on Wasm Edge, if you're curious, right? So once the CLI is installed, what you will get is a node ID, and along with that, what you will also get is a device ID. Now, if you are a node builder and if you're keen to earn incentives, you can use these to provide decentralized inference, because I said Gaia is a decentralized open source platform that lets anybody launch AI agents. Both these values will help you now to be able to contribute to the decentralized inference, right? So here is the node ID, and like I also mentioned, this is my wallet address, as in my agent's wallet address now by default, right? And the second command that you do is just run the source command for the Gaia CLI to be available in this terminal window. That's all, nothing complex, pretty straightforward. This one is easy to miss, so make sure you don't miss this one. Otherwise, the Gaia command will not work, right? So the second step is the most interesting step, which is the Gaia init. Now, what this does is by default, it downloads the Llama 3.2 3 billion parameter model and a knowledge base about Paris by default. Now, if you don't want to run Llama 3.2, but want to run, let's say, DeepSeek, right? Or if you want to run a coding specialized assistant, right? LLM, then I would recommend you go to the Gaia GitHub org, and under the repository section, here you will find something called a node configs repo, right? What we've done is we've created templates for the config files for most of the LLMs that are out there, and we keep updating this with whenever a new model gets launched, right? You can also find this on our Hugging Face, where you go to huggingface.co/Gaianet and scroll down. You will find models and also datasets for all the examples that we have on the website. You can find their actual dataset here, so you can see how chunking is done and segmentation are done, right? So you can see here, let's say if you want to use the Qwen 2.5 3 billion parameter model, you can just click here and go to files and copy the whichever model you want to use. But I recommend Q5 K_M specifically. But if you don't know all of those terminology and don't want to learn all of those, it's okay, right? Because it's not required. You can go to our GitHub repo, like I mentioned, and pick the model. Here you should see the Qwen 2.5 coder 3 billion parameter model. This is where you will find the second command that I was talking about, initializing, and also the config file. The config file is like the heart of your AI agent. This is where the prompt manager is. This is where the LLM sits. This is the LLM. Let me zoom in a little. This is the LLM, right? By default, like I said, you get Llama 3.2 if you don't want it. Now, all you have to do is let's run this one. And if you have a machine that is, let's say, 8 GB CPU only, I would recommend running a model that is either 0.5 billion, 1 billion, or 3 billion should also work, but don't try to run an 8 billion or 70 billion parameter model, because your machine will not work, right? All your workflows will end. Your machine will die. So don't do it. Pick the right model for your machine. But if you want to run a larger capacity model like 70 billion parameters, or like DeepSeek's 236 billion parameter model, you will need a machine with a high-end GPU, so you can rent those on any platform and run the same steps, right? Nothing is different. Now, let's go back to our terminal and run Gaia init-config, and we will pass the config from the repo that I showed. If you want to just run the defaults, you can just do Gaianet init, and it should run. Right now, what this will do is it will update the config and start downloading the LLM, the embedding model, and also this one doesn't have a knowledge base, so it will not download any snapshot of the knowledge base. Right. So while this is happening, if you have any questions, now is the time to drop them in the chat. While my internet takes its own sweet time to download the model itself.
Yes, please ask your questions. We also have Twitter open, so you can also send any kind of messages there. And I will read them to Harish. So I should not touch my AirPods. Um, so yeah, please everyone. I feel like this was so you already touched so many topics and you went into
Yeah,
depth. Like setting up an agent, it sounds so simple, but then the knowledge that you have to have beforehand, just like
yeah,
about the different models that you can use, like what that means to like choose a specific model or using that, as well as like having the right setup with your machine. And I think when you talked about like the machines, like a lot of people with like older machines are a bit like with less power, will they have like issues running an agent? Would you say? Or
lower
what
power
would you recommend
machines,
them?
they if they're running a smaller model like a zero 0.5 billion parameter model, they should not have any issues. But if they try to run something big, it'll break. Right? For example, my let's say my Mac Mini is a 8 GB one. I tried running a 8 billion parameter model on it, and everything stops working. So that's not ideal.
Okay, very good information for everybody watching. Make sure to like choose small models so that you don't break your computer. Nice. Okay,
Right.
we have two questions.
Yes.
How
Yes.
is
Yes.
peer-to-peer communication happening in Gaia under the hood? Are we using lib P2P?
Okay. To answer that, I actually have a homework for you to go into our repos, right, and try and see how the communication is happening using these two repos, right? How are the domains communicating with the node, and how is decentralized inference being provided? I'm asking you to do it because it's a very interesting way this works, and you will enjoy it if you know how P2P works. I'll leave it at that.
Amazing. Yeah, do your homework. It's important, I guess, in the end to
It's
understand
fun.
that
That way,
fully.
that way you
So,
will also explore the repo itself. That's my
and then,
primary
and
agenda.
that's always the most important thing. And reading code is the best coding school.
Yeah. So what you get when you install the CLI is this repo specifically. Yeah.
Okay,
Everything is
amazing.
open
Next,
source. Yeah.
everything we love open source. That's what we're here for. Next question. When setting up the Gaia node, at what point do you provide the knowledge base?
Right. So what I do when I build my agents as examples is first work on the knowledge base and create the snapshot and keep it aside and then install the node. Right. Now in the second step that we did the initialization. Before this is where you provide the knowledge base. Let me quickly show you. When I go to the GaiaNet folder, this is the same for any machine. On Windows, you will need WSL. If you are on a Windows machine, make sure you install WSL first and do this in Ubuntu, right? If you go to GaiaNet folder and if I do this, you will see that these are the folders, right? And there is a file called config.json right here, right? So if I go into this one, if I go into config.json, here is where you provide the snapshot. There is a snapshot value, right? This is where you provide the snapshot. So keep it ready before you start building.
Okay, I hope that um, answered the question. Next question. How big is the LLM that's set by default? Like, does it run on an 8 GB
It does.
machine?
It does. It does run on 8 GB machine. And the default one, like I said, is 3 billion parameter model, right? This one, oh, it's 1 billion apparently. Yeah, 1 billion or 3 billion will still work, right? This is the one that comes by default.
Okay. Okay, perfect. Amazing. Next question. Some of us are new to AI. How easy is it to get familiar with Gaia? What's the learning curve? Good
Uh,
question.
I was also new to AI when I started this last year in September, and it took me about less than a week to figure out what all of this is, right? So it should be fairly simple. But my recommendation, if you're a builder and want to start using Gaia, do what I'm doing now and try to see what is happening, what are some errors that you will run into, and it should be that straightforward. You don't have to learn any of the AI concepts or machine learning concepts, because all of that is abstracted out, and all you have to focus on is the knowledge base itself, and also building apps on top of the node itself. Right. So we'll continue with the demo, and I'll answer some of these on the fly. So the second step, we did the second step, which is the initialization, and the last step is to start. Right. So I want to say Gaia.net start, and this is where the node will start, and you will get a URL that you can start talking to. Like you can say, it is using Llama Edge API server, which is providing the way to communicate with your node directly. Right. If you see, right, one more thing that you have to remember is, if you encounter an issue where you see this specific line and it stops, that means the LLM is probably large for your machine. That's a sign, right? I know I shouldn't be saying this, it should be properly handled in our errors, but this is a question that I keep seeing on some of the support forums that we have on Telegram and Discord. So you should know that if you see this and it ends there, it's probably because of the LLM itself being large enough and not compatible enough for your machine. Or if you edited your config.json that I showed before, if you made an error there, it will stop there, right? So like you can see, this is the URL, right? Now you can use this to connect your node for the decentralized inference part or start using it. So let's open this URL and see how I can now start interacting with it, right? Like you can see, here are some instructions of what model it is using. This is for the API when you call the API, and there is also an embedding model. So which means you can use the URL /v1/embeddings to create embeddings using your own node, so that you should be confident enough that your PDF is not going anywhere external or some third-party platform to just to get embeddings from, right? So you can do all of this in your own machine. Now, when you do chat with this node, the chat UI that I showed you before appears, right? Now you can start talking to your node. You can see your node address here, and you can click start and start chatting with it. And then there is the API tutorial here. You can just copy the curl command and run it, right? That's all you need to start an AI agent. By default, these are the interfaces that you get to interact with your AI agent. But if you are using a framework like Eliza or building an app, let's say in Python or Node.js, you can simply use the API itself. Now, how do you know which endpoints to use? Good question. All you have to do is go to API reference on our documentation. And if you scroll down, you will see all the endpoints and the way you can call them along with the example response. When you enable stream true, you can simply show the animation of as if the computer is typing. That's what is happening when ChatGPT or any of the platforms respond, right? And these are some of the parameters you can pass to each API. This is the embeddings endpoint. Then there is a retrieve endpoint, right? You can use all of these now to start building apps on top of the node that you just launched. Now, if you are converting, like I said, if I want to convert, let's say Celo's documentation, what I would do is let me see if I can quickly show this to you and not get into a lot of detail, because it will take at least a couple of hours for us to be able to really create a good uh, knowledge base, right? For the question that is about how about the format of the knowledge base, there are different formats that you can use. One is on the documentation itself of our docs.gainet.ai website. You can see that there's a quick intro to knowledge bases, and you can see that you can convert knowledge bases from a plain text file, TXT, or a Markdown, or CSV, or a PDF, or also from a URL. I would recommend, if you want to just try this out very quickly, create a simple text file with 4 or 5 paragraphs of text and use the web tool that I showed you. But don't use it for large use cases, because this one is built only for smaller use cases. For large ones, you can go to, again, our repo, and there should be a repo called rack tool. For this, you will need Quadrant running on your machine, and also Docker. This is purely to create embeddings only, right? This is not talking about the AI agent part, right? So PDF, CSV, Markdown. But if I were to create documentation based AI agent, let's say, first step is obviously to find the Celo's documentation. I hope it is easy to find. Should be easy. Yes, right here. What I would do if I'm creating an AI agent for Celo's docs, I would simply get all the Markdown files into one file, right? These are all Markdown files. I would clone this repo and merge all the markdown files. How do I merge? You can write a script for it, right? Merge into one markdown file and then use that markdown to convert into embeddings. And then when you convert to embeddings, you will get a dot snapshot file. You have to zip it and upload to Hugging Face, or you can use it locally also, right? If I go to GaiaNet's page, like I showed you, the data sets that we use are available here. For example, Paris one that comes by default. You can see the same in files and versions, and you can see the chunks one. This is the example of how to chunk your data so that LLM doesn't lose context or starts hallucinating, right? So make sure there is a line break after each chunk. That's all. If you have different chunks that are talking about the same topic, my recommendation is to add the heading on top and then add the information underneath. Right now, where am I saying all of this from? Don't worry, it's part of our documentation. Right, this is where you should see an example of how to chunk. Hold on, let's go to the plain text one. Where is it? Should be somewhere in the documentation itself. But yeah, that's how you chunk. Is it from this one? Yes, here is the example. Leave a line blank and then save it. That's how you create a knowledge base. And for the question, can we use Git Bash in Windows for running Gaia nodes? No, you need WSL. Yes. So that's how you launch an AI agent. There is an open API endpoint that you can use now to talk with your agent directly, right? So for the rest of the time, right, what we will do is I'm going to show you the example app that I built using using Celo's contract kit, right? What is contract kit? It's a library that helps all of us developers to run different types of actions, right? You can connect to a node, you can run simple transactions on Celo. You can also
It's
interact with, yeah, go ahead.
just a little like what we just want to say. Contract Kit is really more focused, like more used for node developers at this point. Like dev developers really like suggest to use Veeam. But yeah, definitely a huge library that the Celo team created, the C-Labs team. Just wanted to throw that in. If you're a dev developer, just look at other libraries. But it's an important library of the Celo stack.
Okay, I didn't know that. But see, that's the beauty of building agents, right? So I was using contract kit to interact with the testnet and also mint the
That
token on
works
chain.
perfectly. That's great. No worries.
Yeah. So if you're building dApps, use what Lena mentioned and don't use contract kit. Contract kit is you can still use it, but recommended for node builders. Node builders
It's
as in
yeah,
Celo
it's
nodes.
more for like internal use, I would say, because it's not, I would say, not maintained in the way, or like Veeam just like added so many functionality that at that point we just like recommend using Veeam for app dev developers.
Okay,
Yeah,
right.
but
All right. So let's open my code base. Let's see where it is. I'm going to walk you through some of the files that I'm using. But remember, you can always use one of the GPTs to generate this also if you don't want to write everything by yourself. But let's walk through the code base. Hold on. Here it is. Okay. Let's zoom in. Yeah, you can also get this repo on GitHub. The link is in the chat. Right. So there are three components, or rather two components for this example that you have to know before you get started building an automated token launcher using Gaia and Celo, right? One is you need obviously the Celo tokens in your wallet, and you will need a wallet private key, right? So make sure you create the environment variables and store them here. I'm obviously not going to risk it and open this. But if you go to the repo, you will see that you need two environment variables. One is the MetaMask I'm using MetaMask in this case, so the private key of my account in MetaMask. And also second one is the test tokens on your wallet. You can use the Celo faucet to get test tokens. I use the same. So those are two things that you will need, prerequisites before you get started. And some of the what I'm doing here to build is, first I created a smart contract. Let's go to contracts. There's a meme token contract. Very basic, very simple. Don't judge me. This can be much better, I know. But all this contract is doing is minting a token and adding a supply to it, right? By default, I'm creating a 1 billion token supply. That's all. There is a name, there is symbol, and the initial supply for the coin itself, right? Very simple, very straightforward, smart contract, nothing complex. But the idea is not for you to launch random spam meme tokens like this, but for you to now innovate and experiment with this and build more complex smart contracts that you can interact with using Gaia's LLM inference. So Gaia comes only as an LLM inference in this case, where you can use it to now interact with whichever SDK that you're using, right? So with that smart contract out of the way, Hardhat, I used Hardhat to compile this. However you want to deploy, you can deploy whatever. All you need, I think, is the JSON API, right? Once you deploy the contract, you need the API for the interaction to work. Now let's go to how this works, right? Like I said, contract kit, I'm using contract kit, and I'm using contract kit to essentially mint the token itself that I get from Gaia's LLM on chain, right? So there are two functions, very simple, very straightforward. One is generate token name, and then there is generate tokenomics that are part of the token generator, right? And the next one is token deploy. Now this is the one that is deploying onto the testnet, right? If I go to token generator, all I'm doing is, like I said, OpenAI compatible API is what we get from Gaia. I'm calling the Gaia node URL. Now, what is this node URL? This looks different from the one I showed you, right? For that, let's go back to the documentation. Where is my, hold on. Yes. So if you go to Gaia docs, if you are unable to run a node on your local machine, don't worry, we have you covered, right? What we have is something called public nodes, where we are running nodes for you, right? There is a Llama 8 billion parameter model. Then there is a model that converts voice to text, right? You can use this also if you want to, let's say, launch a token using user's voice, right? All of that is for you to experiment, right? Then there is text to image, very basic version of realistic vision v6 model, and then some of them are upcoming. And if you want code assistant models, like I said, you can use these models or your own node in your, let's say, cursor or VS Code. You can use coder.gaia.domains model. This runs, I think this one runs SOTA, and then there is also Codestral by Mistral, and a bunch of nodes, right? You can use all of these. We also have DeepSeek one. I'll probably drop a link to the DeepSeek one at the end of the workshop itself. This is not listed here. So if you want to try DeepSeek as part of your LLM inference in your applications, I'll drop the link to the DeepSeek one at the end. Remind me if I forget in the chat, right? So these are public nodes, right? So if you go back to my code, I'm using one of the public node and passing a Gaia API key. To get the API key, it's also a straightforward one. Don't worry, you don't have to pay to get the API key. All you have to do is go to gaianet.ai, and once you connect your account, you can go to settings, and then inside settings, you can create API keys, right? As of today, we are not forcing you to use the API key, which means if you don't pass this parameter also, it will work, right? So if you see, there is system prompt and a user prompt. Let me grab this so that you can read. All I'm saying is you're a creative assistant, right? That generates meme token names. Now respond in this format. I want the token name and the symbol. That's all you have to tell the machine. Like I said, system prompt is the one where you instruct the LLM to behave in a certain way, right? Now the user prompt is where the query goes in, as in when you type a question in ChatGPT or the UI that I showed you earlier, that's the user prompt. System prompt is the rule by which the LLM performs, right? So I'm saying generate a creative and funny token name and symbol, right? If you want the responses in a certain way, you can always play around with the temperature. 0.9 means more specific, more rigid responses. 0.1 you can get wild responses. So up to you. And if you want to add a character to the type of meme coins you want to generate, you can always add that here, right? You can also say only generate cat specific meme coins, or only generate dog specific, or whatever, right? You can write that here, and the LLM will start responding. Now, if you train your LLM on a specific data set, right? If let's take an example of a personality, right? Let's say you trained your node on Harry Potter knowledge base, right? If you want to generate tokens on the houses that are there in Harry Potter, you can mention that here. And the LLM, since it has context about Harry Potter specifically, it will generate token names and symbols specific to that, right? That's how you customize how you interact with the LLM using the API, right? I'm just parsing the responses and then printing it and passing it to the next one, right? Now, if the API endpoint doesn't work, right? Let's say your node stopped, or your server shut down, or some random thing happened, public node is not working. I've also included a simple uh, fallback mechanism where I'm passing some adjectives and nouns and asking it to randomly generate a meme coin name, right? So that is also there, and I'm generating the initial 1 billion tokens as the supply, just to make sure it's not outrageous or random. That's all. These two functions are enabling us to generate the token name itself. Right now, how is this getting deployed? You go to token deployer. This is also part of the repo, like I showed. Right? You can simply run the repo and you'll see the same responses. Now let's wrap this again. Sorry about that. Okay, so to deploy the token, like I said, all I'm doing is using the contract kit. Right? What is it? Oh, this one uses. This is a different one. Oh, my bad. Okay. So the repo that you have uses contract kit, and this one is using ethers by using the ABI from the meme token JSON. Yep, and here is where it is deploying. Yeah.
Just one thing.
Hmm.
One special thing about Celo is that you can actually, like, if you you can pay for gas fees in any currency, not only in the native token, but also in the stable token. Ethers is the only library that does not have that yet
Correct.
feature,
That's
but
true.
we're adding it. So just like dropping that in for anybody who is building on Celo and like planning some action in that direction.
Yes.
Yeah. I
Thank you
think
so
it's
much.
like at this point we are all, I think ChatGPT, like any kind of like code assistant, will be able to help us to use any other kind of framework. So I don't think that that is an issue. What
That's
kind
true.
of framework we use, in my opinion. So I'm just dropping in some information.
You're not wrong.
Yeah.
Yeah. Most
Right?
of
I feel
this.
like
Yeah. Most of this can be built using. Like I said, this is the repo that Lena shared earlier, and this is the one where you can see that I'm using contract kits instead of ethers. Right. You can go through this when you have some time after the workshop, right? Let's run this and see what happens, right? Let's see. Oh, hold on. Let me see what. Okay, start. I keep changing my script, so I keep getting confused. Okay, ignore the warnings. Those are machine specific. They have got nothing to do with the example that we're trying. So now it is calling the API. Like you can see, it is saying generating token name and symbol. So if the API is responding and is up, what you should see is the token name and symbol that we got from the API, and also the deployed contract address that you can check on, I think, Celo's testnet. While this is working, okay, we have a question. In case we are building utility tokens, could you please elaborate on how we could add smart contract logic in the code template? Good question. I haven't honestly tried it, if I'm being honest with you. But now that you've asked it and put me on spot, I can probably create one smart contract and tweet it out, maybe during the weekend, that has some functionality beyond just what you saw. So drop me a follow on Twitter, and in case you don't see a tweet from me, please remind me. I will get it done. I will show you how to uh, interact with smart contract with different functionality. That should be pretty
That's his
straightforward.
Twitter. If you need
Oh yes,
anything, follow him on follow Harish on Twitter,
correct,
and you also comment on this stream, or like just like say like, Harish, where's the repository?
correct. Put me on spot. But yeah, I'm not shilling the Twitter, but I drop most of my demos that use Gaia on the Twitter account. You can find other videos also on there. Like you can see, the token has been minted on Celo testnet, and this is the address and the transaction hash. Now let's go and see what this token is. It's called Doge Lord, right? If you change the temperature, this also will change. You can also give it a personality and say, okay, now only generate specific type of memes, right? Memes is just a way to experiment and learn this. But like we saw the question earlier, if you're creating utility tokens, that should also be pretty straightforward. Now let's see how this got minted. There you go. It wasn't a static response. It is, in fact, on chain. You can also see all the other tokens that I minted. The best part about using an LLM is you don't have to blame a human being for the names of memes, right? You can blame an LLM. So these are some of, I believe most of them are the ones that I minted. I
Wait,
hope.
what's the name of our token now?
And the
Is it
token that I just
that?
launched is Doge Lord, DLR.
Okay. Yeah, so you can. It's something you can say.
Yeah,
It's when you is it when you tone the temperature down, you get the wild stuff, or when you
yeah. Both
yeah
system prompt and temperature.
yeah. So when you
But you
put
should,
like
yeah,
0.1, it goes wild, and you're like, you don't want to show that to anyone.
yeah. I won't do it. No, waste of resource of GPU. But yeah, that's how you
Consider the
deploy.
environment.
Yeah, yeah. Let's respect the resources. That's a crude way of saying it, but yeah, that's how you deploy a token onto on chain, right? It can be a testnet, it can be mainnet, but remember, you need Celo tokens, so get it from the faucet. Otherwise, this will not work. None of this will work. Also, your private token, private key from your wallet, so that this is attributed to you. Yeah, that's the end of the workshop.
Exactly.
I hope you had fun.
Amazing. Yeah. Just like reminder, just Google Celo faucet. You will find the faucet. Always obviously pre-fund any kind of wallet that you're using for an agent. So otherwise, as you know, the
Yeah,
agent can't
don't
do
use your
anything.
actual wallets.
No.
Yeah, when you're building something like this, don't use your actual wallets.
Yeah.
Please
Oh,
don't.
safety advice here. Always use a developer wallet and never hold actual funds.
Yeah, and if you're giving your wallet info to the agent, uh, then definitely don't use your actual wallet. That reminds me, I have to show you one last thing, right? Which is, remember, I said every node that you launch with Gaia has a wallet. How do you know how to access this data? I'm going to show you where the private key of the wallet is sitting, so that you now can make your agent do transactions also, right? Unlike building an app, you can do the agent transactions using its own wallet. So you can fund the agent's wallet and say, now you have so much money, trade for me, or buy meme coins for me, or whatever your use case is, right? Go to the Ganet folder, and then I believe it should be in node id.json. Let's see what files we have. Yes, there is a node id.json. Let's see. Yep, that's your basically everything that your wallet needs to perform actions on chain. Now,
That
obviously, if you're trying to use these details, don't worry. I'm going to uninstall this node right after this. Then the next time when I launch a node, it will be a new wallet address. So take a screenshot if you want. But yeah, node ID
go
is
wild
where
with
this
this
is sitting.
agent.
Yeah. No, you have the address, key store, and password. You can use this to generate or perform transactions. You won't get a private key. Yes, that's right.
I'm muted. Okay. Does anybody have any more questions? Otherwise, we would you still have time because I will quickly announce something if you have any
Please.
questions. Otherwise, as mentioned, just reach out on Twitter. Harish is there. He will be working through the weekend. Sorry. I literally don't work at the weekends, but this weekend I'm hacking, so I will also be online.
Thank you for reminding me.
um,
Yeah.
so, but we got more questions. So I can ask my agent to send me the funds it made.
You can. Technically, yes. I don't have a demo up for it yet, but yes, that's true. As long as you know how to use these three values, you should be able to do that. Yeah, we can go to the next one. How can we call a custom function with Gaia? Okay, for that, I have to show you something. To call external APIs using Gaia or even OpenAI, right, has the same standard. What you have to do is something called tool calling. Right, tool calling is where you define a function, and inside that function you call the external API. Hold on, let me share screen. Oh, I forgot. Am I sharing? Oh yeah, I am. Okay. Yes. So tool calling is right under the tutorials, right? You can use this public node that we have for tool calling, or you can run your own node, but with a specific model. By default, all LLMs don't come with tool calling enabled. So you can find this model or any model that says tool at the end. It means that that model supports calling external APIs, right? It can be pushing a tweet. It can be retrieving, like I said, any API data, CoinGecko, Price API, Weather API, or it is, let's say you're more into Web2, you can also call NASA's astronomy of the day photo and get that and display it back to the user. That's also possible, but you will need a model that runs tool calling. So here is the example. And for this, you can't run it directly in the node or the LLM. You'll have to build an app. You can either build a Python app or a Node.js app to run tool calling. Right? There is an example. Don't worry. Here is the example that you can use to run tool calling. Right? It is pretty straightforward. It will generate the tool call like this as a response and then calls the actual API. But if you don't want to build all of that, you can also use one of these frameworks like Eliza or even there is a agent starter kit by Collabland. You can also use this. Just add your Twitter information, which is username and password, or you can also build a Telegram bot. If you go to this one, even Eliza supports all of these. You can pass
Can
the
you
Gaia model here.
post a
Yeah,
link to this? I think this is great. I already saw that, right? It comes with
uh,
Gaia and some other
correct,
preset.
correct.
I think
Yes,
this is
sorry.
really great for people who are building for the hackathon to get started.
Yes. Yes. I didn't know we'll get to this part of the presentation, but yeah, you can specify the model here. And then if you're building a Telegram bot, you can do the bot token here. And if you want it to work with GitHub or Twitter, you pass these appropriate parameters. Eliza is also very similar. In fact, AI Agent Starter Kit is based on Eliza. But yeah, Eliza, you can also do the same here. I'm opening the EMV for an example. But yeah, here Eliza has even more tools, right? You can also integrate your own Gaia node here. You can talk to Twitter, WhatsApp, whatnot, right? Even Alexa. Let's see where Gaia is. Yes, here you can include different types of Gaia models.
Does it
Yes,
also come with Farcaster?
yes, sir. It does. Eliza comes with Farcaster. I haven't personally tried Farcaster yet, but yes, you can specify the details here of your
Yeah,
Farcaster FID and all. Yeah.
Gabriel is our Farcaster meme coin developer who will
okay.
he will launch a meme coin economy on Celo. So yeah,
Do it.
that's why
Do it,
he's
Gabriel.
asking this
Looking
question.
forward to it. Please do it.
It's not me making him do that. It was his idea.
Oh, okay. Do it. Yeah. So these are some frameworks that you can use to not have to build the entire integration or figure out these APIs. I would recommend using these tools, but be mindful because most of them are actively under development. So you may also see situations where they may not work at all, and you're in a fix, right? But yeah, those are a couple of tools that you can use. But tool calling is the concept where you call external APIs.
Okay, just to summarize, we had the token launch. We launched the agent, and for that you either use a node, or you have to launch your own node, or you can use one of the public nodes that you provide. One question from my side for that, like these public nodes that you provide, like if I launch my own node, I have to pre-fund it to do any activity, right? If it would be an on-chain activity, or like how, like
Okay, there are two things that you have to remember.
yeah,
If you want the node itself to perform
yeah,
on-chain activity, you have to fund the node's wallet.
yeah,
What we did is create an application on top of it using the API itself, which is where
yeah,
we are using our external wallet. So
yeah.
if you're using a public node, you can't use that node's wallet. In that
Okay.
case, you have to build your own node.
Okay. Or you use an external wallet. And then, but as soon as you do tool calling, you have to build like your little application with like Node or TypeScript or whatever to like,
Correct. And if you
okay.
want to perform on-chain transactions using tool calling also on the side, let's say you want to send the data to some third party, right? Or fetch the DAO principles or the rules for the DAO from boardroom, right? You'll have to run a node with the tool calling, right? Like this one. This LLM supports tool calling. So to pick this one when you're doing the Gaia init, the second step that I talked about.
Wait, which one? Can you read it or say the name
It's
of
Lab
that one?
3 Grok
Because
8 billion parameter model, this one.
okay. Okay. Everybody
This one
remember
comes with
it's
tool
that
calling.
one.
Yeah.
Okay, cool. Anybody else has any questions? I think these were great questions, I think, to like learn a bit more about the functionalities and how to, yeah. And like to finish the summary, if you're building for the hackathon and you haven't gotten to run any agent yet, it's a great way to start with with this kit that is
AI agent startup.
the AI agent starter kit, and just make it run, and then you can start implementing other things. And if you need any
Yeah.
help, just like make sure to not get stuck forever, but reach out in like all the channels that you can find, because other people will have run into the same issue. It's a work in progress. Don't get stuck. You don't have enough time to get stuck. I know a lot of you are building and hacking, so like make sure to just like annoy everybody with your questions. I'm sorry. Please don't annoy me. I also have to ask.
Beautiful.
No, of course, always there, happy to help.
Yeah. Ask questions, but don't ask me. Beautiful.
Yeah.
Amazing.
No, but I think, yeah, amazing. Your QR code, and then again here, Harish is
Thank
on
you.
Twitter. You can reach out. And then just like a last thing, first of all, this is our event today. Huh? And then the announcement. What I just wanted to share again, sign up if you haven't yet, sign up for the Safe Agentathon. It's an amazing hackathon with like 500K in prizes. So really worth participating, I would think. It runs 4 more days than the ETH Global Agentic Hackathon. So like you can still switch, build on the Safe and build on Celo and build with Gaia. Great combination. Just go for it all. And then if you have any questions, just scan that QR code on the right. There's like our Telegram builders channel where you can reach out with any questions. There's also a lot of hackathon builders, and we will be there to support. And then the last thing, if you're building anything, for example, like either for the hackathon or if you just follow along for this like workshop and you want to like build your own agent with Gaia and share that with Celo, you can sign up for proof of ship. It's a monthly AI agent powered contest and with a 5K prize pool. And you can just like share your project there, say like, hey, I love this workshop. I'm building my own agent with a very cool memecoin name, and share your goals with us and apply for this contest, which is running the whole of February. And yeah, you can find that in this QR code or on top of our Celo Devs account. And that is it. Unfortunately, my AirPods are always like too big, and when I'm talking too much, they fall out of my ear. I really need to change that. Wait 1 second. I think we're good. No more questions. Now we have so many viewers when we're over. Make sure to watch the whole workshop because that was, I think, so great and so valuable. Thank you so much, Harish, for this amazing workshop and very, very great. I think building any kind of AI agent is still overwhelming and like a lot. So these workshops help incredible to get started. For everybody who's building, as we mentioned, you don't have to understand everything we said right now. Just make sure you get it to run, and then slowly you can try to understand all the different parts.
Yeah. One quick thing that I would say is don't worry about how to build an AI agent. Worry about what your AI agent should do, because building is easy. There are too many developers out there who put out amazing frameworks and tools and platforms and APIs. Everything will come into fruition as long as you know what to do with the AI agent. Yes, thank you, Miyavi.
Amazing workshop. No, it was really, really great. I learned so much. And yeah, make sure also to follow me and reach out if you have any questions. Follow all of us. Reach out. We will share so much information about AI. Also, another really cool thing that I wanted to share for everybody who is interested in AI is Celo just added lots of AI information to the doc. So if you like very new, you can even find like really nice podcasts and articles just to get started, to find ideas. And also we will add a link to this tutorial, so you can always find it again if you lose the link to it. And so make sure to check out the Celo docs and go through the resources just to get a little overview, and we hope that will be really helpful for you. So yeah, thanks everyone. It was really great. Thank you so much. Thank you, Felix. Thank you everybody for joining. It was great. Thank you, Gabe, for being here. And yeah, Odyssey,
Yes.
great to see all of you.
Thank you, Lena, for having me. And shout out to
Thank
the
you
Celo
so
team.
much. It was
Yes,
so
looking
much
forward
fun.
to doing this again.
Oh, I sent you the list. So
Oh my God, am I walking into this?
I'm happy. Like we can do this every week, and you just like show how you built all of these agents. Like that was
Okay,
my secret
we'll
goal,
get back to you, folks. We'll get back to you on the next one.
Um,
Don't want to walk into another trap.
Okay, well, thank you so much. This was really fun. Everybody, happy building, happy hacking, and let us know. Don't get stuck. Always ask questions. Bye bye.
See ya. Bye.